A very warm welcome to Spa-Francorchamps in Belgium for the latest round of the 2018 Michelin Le Mans Cup. We're here for round 5 of the championship after visits already to France, to Italy, back to France for a double-header during Le Mans week, and we've since had Red Bull Ring, and we visit, of course, here at Spa, missing out Silverstone. Otherwise, though, this championship supports the European Le Mans Series every step of the way. And in a month's time, the championship's climax will take place in the south of Portugal at Portimao. A tremendous facility, this, though, the second longest track we visit after Le Mans, at 7,004 metres in length, and therefore we bolt on a couple of extra minutes for each of the qualifying sessions rather than the 10-minute affairs. These will be 15-minute affairs for 6 GT3 cars in a moment or two, and then the LMP3 field, all 19 of those cars will hit the Spa asphalt. Thank you for joining us. My name's Johnny Palmer. I'm joined by Graham Goodwin, the editor of dailysportscar.com. It's been a fairly typical Spa morning with a little bit of drizzly rain. There is some sunshine around now, Graham, but definitely still a wet track.
Yeah, it should be clear if you're watching on the stream, we're not going to get a Renault Alpine in this session. That's just the single make series supporting the European Le Mans Series and the Le Mans Cup this weekend. We've got lovely sunshine right now across much of the property, but you're quite right, Johnny. We've had a bit of light rain and actually some very heavy rain earlier this morning as well. Caught out a couple of the ELMS contenders in their free practice session. So very changeable conditions indeed. Whether or not, we've certainly got a damp track out there, whether or not that's going to affect matters in terms of weather changing during this session remains to be seen. Look at the clear blue skies there. It's barely believable that just an hour or so ago it was stair rodding down on the ELMS cars. But yeah, looking forward to, well, these quick fire qualifying sessions, which sometimes you come into these, Johnny, thinking you might be looking for more, but it does seem to deliver, doesn't it? There is a sense of occasion about these quick fire sessions. 14 degrees centigrade we can see there on top of the race control tower, the old race control tower down in the old pit lane. That's where the Michelin Le Mans Cup racers are based this weekend.
Yes, based there, but they will pit in the Grand Prix pit lane, which is, your pit lane in is just partway through the chicane, basically the bus stop chicane. You don't take the left-hand element of that, you continue straight on, and then along a cliff edge, which is the pit lane entry, and that is the first pit lane effectively on the dead flat. But the teams will be based during this session out of the endurance pit lane, which is the section after La Source and just prior to Eau Rouge. So you've got quite a long-winded pit lane exit to negotiate. One of the Porsches sitting there just to the Ferrari's right-hand side, and that is the only Porsche in the entry indeed for EB Motors, the Italian squad. They won this championship last year, and as a result of that, were invited to the Le Mans 24 Hours in 2018. It's exactly the same prize up for grabs in this season for the 2019 twice round the clock event next June, and Kessel Racing could seal the championship this weekend. All they got to do is win the race, and that guarantees them victory because they'll have an unassailable lead. There are other ways that they can win it as well, and I'm talking about the number 8 Kessel Racing Ferrari, for there are 3, and they've all been released by at the same time by the Swiss team based in Lugano.
Yep, 6 cars, 5 Ferraris, 3 from Kessel Racing, 2 from the AF Corsa family, the 51 car under the Spirit of Race banner, the 71 car under the AF Corsa banner, and that means that with EB Motors car, also of course Italian flag, 2 Italian cars, 4 Swiss flag cars in this 6. It is a wet track has been declared, so we must have the rain lights on. That's one to look for in case one of the cars hits trouble in that session. We have seen those kind of snafus actually strike. And we're very soon going to get this session underway, Johnny.
Yeah, so the number 8 car leading the championship then with a couple of poles already to its name as well, and has a 21-point lead over the 51 Spirit of Race car. We're underway with the green flag waving. Of course, tyre rules are sort of sent out the window a little bit with a wet session as well, because allocation of slicks sort of doesn't matter anymore, and you can obviously bolt wet tyres to these cars. I'm sure that's the decision made by the teams, at least initially. It depends whether over the 15 minutes we're going to get a dry track emerging. Along the Kemmel Straight, it does look relatively dry, and bear in mind this straight runs quite dramatically uphill to Les Combes, which is the right, the left and the right at the end of this long straight. A great overtaking opportunity come the race, but it might be that the track dries up very swiftly. Yes, 15 minutes, but only 6 cars circulating, so we'll need a fair bit of running to see a dry line, but it looks almost bone dry at Les Combes now at the top of the hill, Graham.
It does, and remember, for these sessions, it will be a non-professional ranked driver will qualify the car in Michelin Le Mans Cup. Now, in some instances, that means the teams get to make a choice. In this instance, indeed, the EB Motors squad, both bronze-ranked drivers aboard EB Motors, and it looks very much as if it is Alessandro Baccani is taking qualifying duty this weekend. Comes the 51 car, the 2AF Corsa owned cars. This is a Spirited Race car in the, well, rather evocative, what would you say, that mid-90s Ferrari red?
I think so, yeah, sort of, yeah, 94, 95-ish.
As opposed to the more blood red in the sister 71 car. So, all bar the 71 have left the pit lane, and that is about to. There you can see the rather darker red, shade of red on the 71 car. I can tell you aboard the other cars. Sergio Pianezzola is aboard the number 8 Kessel Racing Ferrari. It is Murad Sultanov aboard the number 50 Kessel car. 51 is in the hands of Christoph Ulrich. The Kessel Racing number 77 is in the hands of Claudio Schiavoni. And as we say, it was Alessandro Baccani aboard the EB Motors car. The 71 car will be in the hands of Pier Giuseppe Perezzini, being the gentleman ranked driver, as the cars come round, Johnny Palmer, to start their first flying laps.
Yes, the Murad Sultanov car, number 50, has been driven by John Hartshorn and Ollie Hancock in the past for Kessel Racing, but Murad and Matteo Crissoni are the lineup in car 50. Crissoni's never raced in the Michelin Le Mans Cup before, and Sultanov with experience in the past of the Spa-Francorchamps when he raced with Rinaldi Racing, so does know this track and some other Blancpain Endurance Series events too. Done the Dubai 24 hours a couple of times, so no stranger to GT3. We'll see how the Russian gets on this weekend then, having to do the qualifying, and that's the beauty of this championship. It really does put the onus on the bronze driver. They don't necessarily have to start the race, but they have to do a good old chunk of it, 55 minutes at least, of a 2-hour race, which is held later on today. A rather strange 10 to 4 start through till 17:50, making 2 hours in total. I think it's so that we adhere to the strict curfew here at Spa, which will be 6 o'clock, so we'll be 10 minutes clear of that. So this being a very long track, more or less exactly 7 kilometres in length, it does take a bit of time for the cars to work their way around on a first flying lap, and the time very quickly eats away as well.
Yeah, it's 2.5 minutes on the lap out of the pits for each of these cars. I can tell you that Perezzini has left the pits. All 6 cars now in this GT class, for GT3 class machinery, remember, are on track now.
And we've had pole positions for the 8 Ferrari on 2 separate occasions. There's been a pole for the 71 AF Corsa Ferrari when Pier Giuseppe Perezzini stuck it on the front row, and a pole for the EB Motors Porsche so far.
Monza, but it was Monza, wasn't it?
I think it was Monza, he says, checking the list. Yes, the 88 on the pole position at its home race. EB Motors also running a car in the ELMS this year as well. So there's the 50 car with a completely different driver lineup, and it is Russian Murad Sultanov doing the driving there, and has at the moment the fastest Sector 1 time, and we'll see how that evolves through as the car now heads through Curve Paul Frère and towards Blanchemont. The old bus stop used to turn left and right, of course, around about here, but further up now is where the chicane sits at the end of the lap. And it's so important. You might be on an absolutely perfect lap and then muck the whole thing up into the braking area. Oh, as Murad Sultanov, speaking of which, overcooks his braking point a little bit, and that will cost him time. So the Kessel Racing Ferrari number 8 goes over the line with Sergio Pianezzola. 2 poles already to the 48-year-old Italian's name for Kessel, and it's a 2:33.6 for Pianezzola as we watch again. This outbraking of Sultanov, just about scooped up the moment though. Yeah,
Sultanov lost all the time he'd actually hung on to there for Pianezzola. 2:35 for him, but he lost that 1.5 seconds to the the provisional pole sitter. I think in exactly that moment, Johnny, that did cost him about a second and a half by the look of things. 9.5 minutes to go, so this session is ticking around rather rapidly. Just 3 cars so far have completed their first flying lap. Here comes Alessandro Baccani to do likewise aboard the number 88 DB Motors Porsche. Where is this going to put him? It pops up into third, very much in contention with Sultanov ahead of him. What more has the Porsche got? If we do find wet conditions, generally speaking, that tends to edge towards the Porsche. Better traction for the rear drive. Remember, this is a GT3 spec Porsche 911, very much rear-engined car, as opposed to the sister car in the ELMS, the 911 RSR, which is now a more mid-engined version, but still seems to have very good traction in the wet. We've had wet practice sessions for both ELMS and marginally so for the Michelin Le Mans Cup. Pitting, though, is the number 71, Perezzini, clearly not happy.
No.
In and out, in and straight out again.
It hasn't done a flying lap yet,
no.
Perezzini, so now hopefully this will be an out lap and then it'll turn into a flyer, but the previous out lap turned into an in lap. Speaking of EB Motors, they were on pole position last year in the GT3 category with their Lamborghini Huracan, as it was 12 months ago. Emanuele Busnelli and Fabio Babini, who went on to win the championship. It was a 2:24 on that occasion, but that's a little bit academic. We're not going to get to that time or beat it because of the slippery conditions. And the 51 car just tippy-toeing its way around with Christoph Ulrich.
Oh, big incident, I'm afraid, there. Is that Perezzini straight out of the pits? It is.
71. Yes, it is. 71
it's
into
a red
the
flag
wall.
Immediately, Johnny.
Not surprising, and that's buckled the Armco barrier as well. And there are bits falling out of this Ferrari. Sensibly, Perezzini, fresh from the pit lane, is easing it to the left side, but there's suspension failure clearly. So what happened here? Did he just boot the throttle to try and build up some tyre temperature? Or did the car snap left? Oh, that's a very strange moment. A very strange moment. Clearly something breaking on that 71 Ferrari. Now, whether that was connected with why he had pitted already, we won't know. But
that was an extraordinary moment, wasn't it?
Bizarre. Absolutely bizarre.
No steering input whatsoever. The car just snapped.
Yeah.
And it looked bone dry.
Yes. Oh, yeah, it wasn't as if the rear wheels were spinning necessarily. It just went to the left with absolutely no warning at all. And that was a shock even in slow motion. So goodness knows what it would look like in real time. And you have no time to react with the Armco barrier, what, about 10 feet away from the edge of the track.
Watch it again. Pier Giuseppe Perezzini. About this point here, away it goes.
I just wonder whether is it doing some steering from the rear, maybe? And there's some smoke from the rear left as well, but the suspension on the rear tyres
it looks okay.
Looks solid, yeah.
That was an extraordinary moment. Perezzini, experienced gentleman driver, been around for a long time in GT racing, GT3 and GTE racing.
They have won. They've won a race. The first one at Le Mans, in fact, where there were half points on offer, shared the car with Marco Ciocci, and they've had a couple of second places along the way as well. Third in the championship. That is going to be a huge rush now for AF Corsa to try and fix that car in time for the race. And the problem with this format, if you do have a shunt in qualifying, is that the race is the same day as this session and is due to start at 15:50 this afternoon. The marshals along the Kemble Straight also with a big job now to tidy the track up, and several brooms will be ordered. The clock has been stopped, so we're not losing any session time. However, of course, anybody that was on a quick lap at that point will have lost that lap, and you'll have to try and find time for an extra out lap. So Pianezzola hanging on to pole position at the moment. There's an extra point on offer for that, remember. So that will add even more cause for the number 8, maybe sealing the championship this weekend. It's a 2:33.6. Sorry, Graham.
That's a big clear-up job for the trackside marshals. We watch one more time, and there it goes.
And the nose cover finding its way all the way over the debris fence there, but I think slotting its way between that and the spectator fence.
Lots of coolant, I'm afraid, down. That will require a bit of a clear-up as well. Debris, mercifully, for the most parts, restricted just to where the impact site was. Piazzolla getting off the track, but he will be, sure, pretty shocked as a result of that incident.
A lot of what sits at the front of Ferrari is crumple zone and designed that way. As you say, there's a radiator there, but the early indication maybe is that that will be fixable in time for the race later on.
Now, I have to tell you that he's driving that back to the pit lane, I think.
There we are. So wanting to get it back to... Yeah, he's reached... Oh, no, I'm not sure, actually.
No, maybe not.
No, I think it got to Le Combe and then to the escape route, which is the start of the old track here at Spa.
With the amount of... That fundamentally is not Ferrari 488, should make it very clear. That's the clear-up vehicle. Fabulous Mercedes-Benz Unimog. But that's going to mean some frantic work, if indeed it's salvageable for this afternoon's race starts, Johnny, for the AF Corsa team. If you were going to put a bent Ferrari into anybody's hands to get to turn around quickly, it would be Amato Ferrari's stalwart squad. Clearly will be playing absolutely no further part in this session.
And it's important they do that and take part in the race, because they are still within the envelope to win the championship. There's still 52 points on offer. They're not going to win the point for pole in this session, but they're still just about close enough. I mean, it would take an awfully unusual set of results, but that 71 car third in the championship and trailing Kessel Racing, car number 8, by 26. So it's still reachable, and certainly a second place finish in the championship is a goer.
Though had this been the final round, that would have been it for them for the championship. But we do have those 2 rounds left. This this qualifying session and race to come. Same again. Portimao in just a few weeks' time.
Yeah, and each of those races worth 25 points each. You get 18 for second, 15 for third, and there are points all the way down to actually just finishing the race, because if you finish the race outside of the top 10, you get half a point. It's a point for 10th position. But it's been a nice, varied year in the championship. OK, we might have struggled for different manufacturers with predominantly Ferrari 488s in the GT3 category. There's another look at the damage on the 71 car. And no doubt fresh Michelin tyres. Still a really bizarre moment, that, down the Kemmel Straight. Unless he was struggling for any sort of power and then it kicked in without any warning, if it was an electrical glitch perhaps, and the car then just switched ends, but it looked like it either something clearly broke or he just slammed the throttle down to the floor and the thing spun under with wet asphalt underneath. Very tricky to tell from that distance, and the car very, very badly damaged. But the clear-up operation continues down the long straight that runs out of Radion and towards Le Combe.
And that's a barrier repair vehicle as well on site now. So there is going to be a barrier repair, certainly assessed. Clear up for the coolants down, clear up for the debris. You can see that going on apace. The rather larger pieces of carbon fibre are recovered over the fence there on the left.
Yes, and it was this car that barely made it to the end of the first lap in the second race of Le Mans week, because 8 and 71, you may remember, had an altercation at the second chicane when one car came from a long way back to attempt an overtake that was never really on, slammed into the side of the other car, and they were both out on the spot, and Marco Ciocci wasn't best pleased, Perezzini's teammate. Ciocci is here again this weekend, and no doubt a little bit concerned about whether that car is repairable in time for the 6th race of the year. There were half points on offer for both of the Le Mans races. They managed a second place in Austria as well, did Perezzini and Marco Ciocci. But the problem for those guys at AF Corsa is that Kessel just keep on winning. And Kessel have never been at the 24 Hours of Le Mans. So that will be a first entry for the Swiss team. Graham's now squinting at me, but I did check the stats on that.
I have a feeling they may have assisted another car back in the day, but I think you're right. That's pretty extraordinary, isn't it? But a team with the background of Kessel Racing have never actually entered, well, the world's greatest endurance race under their own name, but I'm pretty certain that we have seen a GTM car in the past with Kessel Racing to support them.
Yes. But by virtue of if they can win, and they'd brought 3 cars to the championship all year, then the team formed in 2000 by Ronnie Kessel and Tiziana Borghi will get a chance to fly that Swiss Kessel Racing flag.
Formed by Loris Kessel, who sadly we lost some years ago from memory, but Ronnie actually taking over that
as the team principal. Yeah.
Absolutely, with Tiziana being very much the operational head, a very familiar face in the GT racing hierarchy. So lots of activity here. They're going about this work apace, and hopefully we can give you a little bit more information in just a few minutes. We're being told there will be some information about resuming this session in about 6 minutes' time.
The other thing we'll concentrate on later on is the pole position for LMP3.
Again, as you say, 19 cars in that one, Johnny.
Yes.
Which is, again, since introducing the little LMP3 prototypes, we'll watch one more time here. And that thing just turned sharp left, didn't it?
Mm. It's a really strange moment, and the only slight doubt to my mind is the fact that the Ferrari tried to join the session, then clearly Perezzini wasn't happy about something or other. Now, whether the two things are related, again, we won't be able to tell you until we have a chat with Pier Giuseppe, but he did an outlap, then came in, visited the team, and then rejoined the session. And then mere corners from rejoining, that happened. So
yeah,
it's 99% a technical drama, I think, because you don't see a car turn left halfway down the... I mean, he was out of the corner. He was out of Radiant.
And there was certainly no sign that he was putting steering input into the car, for instance, to warm the tyres. There was no sign of it. It was simply in a straight line and the car snapped.
Yeah.
So let's wait and see whether or not we do hear back from Pier Giuseppe. Hopefully absolutely fine by that. There's quite a substantial impact with the barrier.
Mm. Oh, yes, and of course we wish him well. I mean, the fact that he was able to limp the car a bit further down the track and therefore out of harm's way was a good sign.
There is going to be no man in world motorsport, by the way, better aware of whether or not he needs further attention. Pier Giuseppe Perezzini is a renowned orthopaedic surgeon. Is his day job. Has actually helped a number of our friends in the world of endurance racing down through the years.
But yes, in LMP3, it's a little bit of deja vu from 2017 in that DKR Engineering Norma M30 is dominating the championship, this time with drivers Jens Pettersson, the bronze, and Leonard Hugenboom, the silver driver from the Netherlands, just still 18 years old. And they are bossing the championship. They have this lead. It's a significant gap of 46.5 points back to the 79 Kyrgios Nielsen duo of Alistair McCaig and Colin Noble. Again, it's not necessarily championship sealed yet, but all DKR Engineering are looking for is a top 7 finish, and irrespective of anything else that happens in the race, that will seal the championship for them. Ooh, I never like seeing that over and over again. Ferrari 488 is a beautiful car, and that, unfortunately, is no longer as the designer intended. But I think much of that is replaceable.
Should say it did exactly what it was designed to do,
yes.
And that was to protect the driver from that impact. We're now seeing, as you can see, that information about this will be 12:10. Don't worry about the dust up front. That is just the quick dry going down to soak up the spilled coolants. You can see to the left the cutting torch underway to remove, I suspect, what that is, Johnny, is a bent support that is being cut out to be replaced.
Yep. So angle grinder in action by the looks of things, with sparks pouring from the Armco barrier on the other side. It is an angle grinder.
Well spotted. And you know your heavy machinery.
I've often seen one of those pieces of machinery used to repair cars sometimes, especially on the fly. The lump hammer, the tie wraps, and the angle grinder.
It's not really main dealer equipment, is it?
It's not.
No, you're talking more short track, aren't you?
I've known some endurance races, though, sometimes as well, when a quick fix is required.
I said before on one of these broadcasts, actually here at Spa, and I think it was a Le Mans Series race back in the day. The car comes back to the pits undercover. A Porsche, having suffered some some dramas at the rear end of the car, and actually chassis was bent, and the team literally chained one end of the car to the grandstand, chained the other end of the car to the team's transporter, and drove the transporter away a little to straighten the car. Worked like a charm.
Brilliant. Brilliant. You're right. Short oval and banger racing, that's often a quick-fire way of straightening out a machine, like a Ford Granada, for instance. Yeah, so that is the way that you repair Armco barrier as well as a significant bevel that needs to be chopped out, and certainly a new strut behind replaced, and possibly some of the slats as well. And this is the sort of work that takes place just up the road at the Nürburgring on the Nordschleife on regular occasions, and the guys here on the repair team at Spa-Francorchamps will be well versed in exactly what to do and how quickly they can do it.
On Twitter, a good friend from Switzerland, Right Turn Lover, offering a possible opinion whether or not the engine could have lost liquid, wetting up a rear tyre, pitching the car into a spin.
That's possible.
Possible. Yeah. If we do get another chance to see it, we might actually have a look and see whether or not we can actually see whether or not one of those tyres is showing any signs of moisture. If you do want to ask any questions, we've got a bit of time. It's going to be 12:10 before we hear further information, so that's another 15 minutes. You can talk to us on Twitter at Blackpool Johnny for Johnny Palmer, at DSC Editor for my good self, and happy to chat in this downtime about the Le Mans Cup, and of course the European Le Mans Series to follow later this weekend. The incident control vehicles now more or less restricted just to where the barrier repair is going on. The clear up more or less complete. They'll sweep that track once it's had a chance to dry up the spilled coolant.
Yes, because the thing we absolutely need when we go back to green flag running is all the grip we had before that incident down the Kemmel Straight, and there is quick dry powder that is designed to mop up coolant and any other sort of liquid that has been dropped by racing cars. We've already had the announcement of what the plan is for 2019 regarding the Michelin Le Mans Cup and the ELMS. The plan again is for the two to pretty much be partners all the way through the year. It's only the Silverstone visit which differs, and that of course is a double bill with the ELMS and the World Endurance Championship over the last weekend of August, first weekend of September. But the Michelin Le Mans Cup, it's almost an unaltered calendar apart from the non-visit next year to Austria and the Red Bull Ring, and effectively replacing that is a first visit for this championship to Spain and to Barcelona, to Circuit de Catalunya. So another Grand Prix circuit to visit, and it's great that the Michelin Le Mans Cup can spread its wings a little bit. So the season will start once again at Le Castellet in the south of France at Circuit Paul Ricard, and then head on to Monza in Italy. The double header at Le Mans, one race on Thursday of 55 minutes, the other on Saturday morning, also 55 minutes. Barcelona replaces Red Bull Ring, and then to Spa and to Portimao to end the year. And the ELMS doing exactly the same, just substitute, obviously no race at Le Mans, but there will be a Silverstone that fits in between the visits to Spain and Belgium. And all of 4 hours will be the ELMS races. There are going to be 2-hour races for the Michelin Le Mans Cup as well. But exciting. We always traditionally get a calendar release for the following year at Spa. And much of us thought it was going to be very much unchanged. But it's nice to have that addition, isn't it?
It was a surprise, absolutely. We park the Schnitzel for the next few seasons, and we move into Paella territory. And that's right. That's good news. I have fond memories of Barcelona back in the 90s. We can go and wander and have a look at another old Grand Prix track, the Montjuic Park, around what is now what was the Olympic Park just 30 years ago or so. But to the city of Barcelona. It's been a while since we've had ACO rules racing in that circuit, and as you say, Johnny, the first time for Michelin Le Mans Cup, and the first time in the modern era for the European Le Mans Series too. So changes afoot as the LMEM, who look after the WEC and this package with ELMS and Le Mans Cup together, look to make further friends around Europe, growing in popularity in terms of the grids and in terms of the people that are turning out. The strategy to have these race weekends, with the exception of Silverstone for the WEC, with effectively free to enter and then €10 to enter the paddock, which by the way gives you pit walks, autograph sessions, and you get to go on the grid for the European Le Mans Series for that €10. Extraordinary deal, if you ask me. Wonderful stuff. And I know an awful lot of people coming to the races this year and last, finding that very much to their liking, as one of the trackside marshals in the Vention staff walks back across the track with a significant piece of Ferrari, the front bodywork, bonnet in UK parlance, hood, if you're an American and say it wrong. But yes, this is not the way you want your Ferrari to come back to the pits, is it?
Certainly not. And this will be obviously the first opportunity for Ferrari to have a look at exactly what the damage is. They've only got a very small working area as well. The garage is very narrow in the endurance pit lane. The advantage that Ferrari stroke Spirit of Race have is that there are 3 garages there and possibly a few extra either side at their disposal. So they've got a bit of extra room should it be required.
They'll know very quickly whether or not this is a job they can achieve in the time allotted.
Yes.
Be prepared to be potentially quite surprised. The worry would be that there's something else that led to the accident in the first place.
Yeah, and a few people have suggested maybe some liquid moisture on the tyres or some other sort of leak, and that's probably been made an awful lot worse now with the extra damage. The race for the Michelin Le Mans Cup, as I've mentioned, starts at 10 to 4 this afternoon, but the build-up to that will easily be at 3:30, and I can imagine a sort of 3:15 time that the car will need to be ready by.
So they've got about 3 hours.
They've got the best part of,
They've got about 3 hours to sort this out. And
you can do a lot in that time.
You can.
Now here's an indication of exactly where the Le Mans Cup cars are situated this weekend, because the pickup truck has missed out the Grand Prix pit lane, and in a moment or two it will turn right just after La Source on that run downhill and tuck into the secondary pit lane, and down on that quite steep slope actually is where the endurance pit lane is situated, and we have 19 LMP3s and 6 GT3 cars all stationed there for the weekend.
So the circuit's engineers here, basically a truck full of big blokes with big tools, getting stuck into the task in hand. The lower tiers of Armco removed to allow them access to that upright.
And Armco is deliberately designed to cushion a blow like that for Pier Giuseppe Perezzini, and then when it has been buckled and it has been bent, it's really only good for one moment like that and has to be replaced, because the struts are designed to bend back and possibly out of their station as well. I don't think we're quite in a situation where a new strut can't be installed without the need for concrete, and sometimes an Armco barrier is pushed so far back that new concrete has to be set in order to install the new strut. But I think this is a relatively simple repair of the Armco barrier, but all 3 struts now have been removed. The fresh layers sit on the back of that lorry, and the sweeper has done its job now, so travelling wrong way towards Radion, and will tuck itself back into the pit lane. But there's still quite a bit of work to do here. Began talking about LMP3 a moment or two ago, and the championship, which is being dominated by DKR Engineering with Jens Pettersson and Leonard Hugenboom. They've won 3 races, and interestingly, it's exactly the same 3 races that the number 8 Kessel Racing Ferrari have won, the regular 2-hour event. So therefore, they must start as the favourites this weekend in another 2-hour affair here at Spa this afternoon, and that would be enough if they won the race today. In fact, even a position anywhere in the top 7 would secure the championship for the Luxembourgish team. Alistair McCaig and Colin Noble the closest to try and pinch some points, but they're suffering a touch after a non-finish at Le Mans, but a couple of second places along the way. They just haven't managed to win a race, and it came really close at Red Bull Ring 2 months ago, didn't it? I mean, a little bit too close for many.
I mean, I think, yes, that was an excellent display by both the Ecurie Nielsen drivers. Alistair McCaig, I think the best drive I've ever seen him undertaken in a little prototype, and they've had plenty of opportunity to impress on that one. And Colin Noble playing a defending role on a track that absolutely suited the Norma.
Yes.
down and down and down came the gap. And I think we both thought, Johnny, watching that it would be over very quickly, but no, once it got nose to tail, there was a fabulous and very fair defensive drive started, and then unfortunately, very last lap, it all went horribly wrong. Colin, doing a great job to hold off the chasing championship leaders, didn't quite get across the track quickly enough to cover. And you can see, by the way, that is Eduardo Freitas, I think.
Oh, yes.
Is it Eduardo?
It is. Absolutely.
That didn't quite get across the track quickly enough to fully cover. And whether or not the eventual move was fair or not, there were certainly multiple contacts, and that left the Kyrgios car into the gravel, from which they did manage to recover at least second, but it was not a very happy Colin Noble on the podium afterwards.
No. And that moment's been replayed several times as well. It was a season highlight, and you could argue that a real crucial point in the championship fight as well, because it was the difference between the number 3 car gaining 7 points on the 79, or possibly the British squad, Kyrgios Nielsen, gaining 7 points back again, because the difference between winning and second place is 7 points in these FIA championships, and that's the biggest points increment going between each of the steps, and it would have been a 14-point swing, and set things up nicely with 2 races still to go. I'm
looking at the body language there, and that doesn't look to me to be a crew that is about to leap upon that car.
Possibly not. And they know Ferrari 488s far better than Graham and I, and they will know how much work is required to replace all the bits, make sure it works again. Obviously, they're not the driving wheels at the front.
No.
So that's the advantage, and the engine sits just behind the driver, but there's an awful lot of integral stuff that is housed at the front of that car.
Bolt onto the tub of the car, and it's whether or not how much damage there is to that crush structure and to the sub-assemblies at the front of the car.
Yeah. And if things like chassis legs have gone, then it will be not necessarily throw it in the bin, but things that need to be welded on, that obviously takes days sometimes.
So our race director, Eduardo Freitas, is taking the closest possible look at repairs underway and indeed the track surface. What he was, I think, looking for there is whether or not there's been enough cleaning done at that site. I wouldn't be at all surprised to see that Unimog back on site here.
It's possible, yep, and he was walking along, slipping his feet, if you like, just to see how much grip was underneath his soles. And if Eduardo, the race director, is not happy, then they'll have to do a slightly more thorough job. But the Armco repair should be done in the next few minutes, I think.
No, just as you speak, as they bring out the big yellow hammer, always a good thing. In fact, 2 big yellow hammers. It's a 2 big yellow hammer job here, Johnny. Information about resuming the session has gone back from 12:10 to 12:25. I think that's Eduardo offering the opinion that looks a bit too slippy for him.
I think you're probably right, and he or his assistant will be on the phone now to bring the Unimog back out from pit lane. I'm encouraged by the crane. Oh no, there is a bit of hurried activity at AF Corse. Yep. So they've still got the best part of 3 hours to get this car repaired, and into the garage it goes.
Come on, boys.
Start the clock. And let's see whether that 71 re-emerges in its glorious 488 contours in a few hours' time. I thought the crane on that green Mercedes truck was being put away, but it's being recalled and extended. So more repair work to be done.
I just wonder, we've had quite a lot of rainfall. If what's happened here is that the concrete footings have moved away from where they should be as a result of wet ground, that could be causing them some further problems.
Yeah.
So there might well be a substantial amount of wedging going on here.
I thought you were actually going to offer a solution as to the incident itself, because, yes, we've had a lot of rainfall, and I just wonder whether there may have been a little bit of a damp patch at the start of the Kemmel Straight.
I don't think so. I mean, unless something extraordinary happened and there was maybe a puddle that wet one tire and not the other, and it was just power fitting in, but it was just so dramatic. It wasn't a wiggle. The thing turned left. And, yes, I think the theory that perhaps something had leaked onto the tyre on one side has got some potential validity. It'd be good to see the replay one more time. We're going to have a little bit more time for this in this further wait. They finished the repairs here, but whether or not we'll hear from Pier Giuseppe Perezzini, I'm pretty certain with an impact like that, he will have had to go to the medical centre for a quick checkup. There will be absolutely no question that he'll just do exactly as the doctor tells him.
Yes, he turns patient in this, I suppose.
He does.
Rather than his usual role.
Eduardo back aboard the circuit car. A tidy Renault Megane by the look of it. Off he goes.
So advice offered by the race director, and the Portuguese will head back then to...
I see what he's doing.
Go on. He's going to handbrake turn it now to see whether there's any grip underneath.
He's braking. He's braking in. He's taken the Megane to see, and he's going to follow that line down.
Yeah.
So he's actually seeing whether or not there's adhesion there to be had.
And the big cloud of dust is now Eduardo off in the gravel. So clearly there wasn't enough grip there. No, that's obviously the powder that's been laid down. He's perfectly okay. He's
spun it around.
And
under control, I should say.
Absolutely, yes.
If he's listening to us, we'll be in real trouble here.
So still a frenzy around that Arnco barrier, and Eduardo, having hopefully allowed that black pickup truck by, is now coming back the other way to test out how much traction is beneath the Renault Megane.
That's exactly what he's doing.
That seems very sensible.
He is a very sensible man.
Full of great ideas. Off onto the grass where there'll be no grip, because that'll be very sodden from, well, rainfall this morning, and there was plenty of rain yesterday as well, particularly in the morning.
Should say, by the way, it is Eduardo driving that car, and we've not got Yannick Dalmas out there with him, his driver advisor for the WEC. Not sure if Yannick's here this weekend. Four-time Le Mans winner, of course, and provides excellent entertainment if you're standing trackside in poor weather. Memorably at Le Mans a couple of 3 years ago, of course. In the then Audi R8 safety car. It's also in Fuji testing grip levels in, I think it was an RS5 a couple of years ago. And WC now equipped with a couple of superb Porsche 911 safety vehicles. And just to notice here, by the way, there is urgency about this. There's one of the circuit managers there. Eduardo is just letting these guys get on with it. They know how to do the job. He knows whether he's happy with the way they've done the job. And just staying out the way and letting them get stuck in. A large number of large men.
And with this issue, sadly for the marshals, I think the lunch break's going for a Burton here, because we've got more qualifying on the schedule for the European Le Mans Series cars. 3 times 12-minute sessions for GTE, LMP3 and LMP2, and that is due to start at 1:10. And we're already, what time should the LMP3 session have started? 12 o'clock through till 12:15. So we're running at least 15 minutes, maybe more like 30 minutes now, behind time. Yeah, 25 minutes. This session should have finished at 11:50. It's now 12:15 very nearly local time. So there might be some adjustment to the schedule necessary. There is catch-up time, and the race doesn't start till 3:50, which AF Corsa are very happy with indeed. And this must be very frustrating for the LMP3 teams and drivers too, because of course they were all geared up for a 15-minute blast, and they're having to postpone as well, keep drivers warm and also in tip-top condition, in readiness to do their qualifying. It'll be all the bronzes, remember, out in LMP3 as well.
And also the modern equivalent of showing that stress and that tension is firmly in play, I can see on Twitter, because the vast array of social media people that actually surround these things, clearly they're waiting to get ready to actually tweet their session, can't keep their hands on the keyboards, ladies and gentlemen. So several tweets there. But yeah, joking aside, you know, there will be, I think, hearts flutter a little. I'm told, by the way, with thanks to Jeff Carter in the media room upstairs, that Yannick Dalmas is here.
Oh, good.
So explain yourself, Yannick. Why is your boss having to do that all by himself? Or has he just nicked your Renault Megane?
Well, it could be that, yeah. If Yannick left the keys on the desk, then that might have been all the invitation that Eduardo needed.
John Mark-Gounod stole my Hyundai once.
There's a story.
Yeah, he did.
What a claim to fame that is. Okay, so still...
He was never the same.
Let me carry on that little anecdote. I'm sure he wasn't. We'll remember that forever. This time, the door's left open on the Megane, maybe keys in the ignition. I'm sure Eduardo is sitting in there.
No, he's not. He's standing by the truck.
Oh, there he is, to the left of the Mercedes truck, right. So Yannick, that car could be nicked at any moment. With the hazard lights flashing. And more angle grinder work with a bit of smoke and sparks.
Let me go again. Let's see if we can get a...
This is the reason why we're in this situation.
We don't really get a sight of the rear tyres, do we?
I think because it pitched to the left, it's more likely to be a rear left tyre problem with no grip on that driving rear left Michelin. And that's the one we don't get a view of.
So, very sorry we can't bring you on-track action. That was why, and this is the remaining damage. You see the just to the immediate right of the truck in the dark blue jacket is Eduardo Freitas, the race director, watching over the repair crew from Spa-Francorchamps, putting the final touches to a repair of the barrier. And it does look as if that might well be final touches, by the way, Johnny. The barrier, yes, indeed, the Armco lengths have been reattached. So, and by the way, I did say about lots of big blokes. There is a lady there on the other side assisting, so apologies. I should have said ladies and gentlemen, getting stuck into them. And thank you very much for the way in which these guys go about their business. Not the work of a moment to do a repair like that.
No, certainly not. And these aren't necessarily the corner workers, the track marshals that would be at that location. This is very much specialist repair work. And metal work basically taking place in front of our eyes, and that section of Armco barrier will now be brand new and very strong indeed. I'm sure some of those sections haven't been replaced in decades, maybe, because you don't often get an incident like that down the Kemmel Straight, obviously normally into corners or at the end of the straight as well. I mean, I never like reminding Gustavo Menezes of a huge crash that he had in Formula 3 only a few years ago. Gustavo is racing this weekend in the European Le Mans Series, but that car going end over end at the end of the Kemmel Straight in a traditional sort of single-seater incident where one car goes over the top of another one. But this is very rare to have a crash so early on the Kemmel Straight and with just one car involved.
Yep.
Angle grinder again in action now as the finishing touches are done to the back of the Armco barrier.
Well, they want to make sure these things sit flush. What you
Yes.
don't want is any kind of snagging point. If a car does find its way to and into the barrier, you don't want a point at which it's going to catch the car. So, taking correct care with it, and you can be absolutely assured that that's going to be looked at carefully by Eduardo Freitas before he comes back to pit lane. In full radio contact, of course, with race control. We're expecting his update in about 6 minutes' time. He's making his way back to the car.
Yes, unfortunately, the time that we're about to receive some news and an update keeps getting moved back purely because it's very much a fluid situation, this, and sometimes a time can be put onto the bottom of the screen, as it is 12:25, but that's about the third time now, and it has been adjusted since then. This is all being done as quickly as possible, with now Eduardo Freitas having a conversation in the middle of the track, and possibly to do some more testing in his Renault Megane to find out how much grip is there. I think the longer the quick dry is out, that's soaking fluid up all of the time.
If we do see the name E. Freitas on the entry list for the forthcoming Renault Megane Cup, I think there might have to be an inquiry about some additional testing.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with that. And in public.
But he'll be looking forward not just to the remaining racing this weekend, massive enthusiast, Eduardo, but very much to the Michelin Le Mans Cup and the ELMS finale at his home circuit at Portimao. Very close to his home. I think we're all expecting to be invited around for drinks. Mrs. Freitas is now rushing to the phone.
Don't see why not. And Portugal's always been a great place to go, a mainstay in the championship, we previously raced at Estoril with the ELMS, and now the new home for the championship at the end of the year as well is Portimao, and that's where we get the dregs of some very warm weather, actually, where it can be cooler in more northern parts of Europe. Down there on the Algarve, it retains its heat and potentially could be very warm towards the end of October. On the other hand, there's the chance of some passing showers as well, as there are this weekend. Maybe some rain for the race in the Michelin Le Mans Cup later today, and a sting in the tail quite possibly. There's also rain predicted for tomorrow's ELMS race as well, and a matter of survival maybe in the early stages of the 4 hours of Spa on Sunday.
We're almost exactly halfway through that 15-minute session, Johnny, at the point at which the red flag came out. 7 minutes and 39 seconds remain on the clock from the 15-minute session. As Johnny said earlier on, extended here because of the length of the circuit, 7-kilometre circuit, about 2.5 minutes with a very quick lap here. I think we are going to get this back underway, but just to remind viewers where we are in the order at the moment. On provisional pole position, it is the number 8 car, championship leader, the Kessel Racing car, Sergio Pianatola, with a 2:33.606. The 50 car, and Zultanov, Russian driver, first race in the series this year, back about 1.6 seconds back, but under some pressure in terms of the available time, and certainly from the way that lap was progressing before the red flag came out from Alessandro Baccani in the EB Motors Porsche. They're the top 3, and they're the 3 at pace, with 2 other cars potentially to challenge later on. The number 77 Kessel Racing car, Claudio Schiavoni, did not put in a competitive lap time, and no flying lap time recorded with the red flag coming out by Christoph Ulrich in the 51 Spirit of Race Ferrari. And that's where we are when we finally get back to green flag running.
No decision yet as to whether to trim away a little bit of the time left in the session either. I don't think that will be done because there wasn't much time to play with anyway, and these are generally 10-minute sessions on shorter tracks, 15 minutes for Spa, but that's a good sign with the Mercedes repair lorry now being 3-point turned, which is a difficulty in itself. Don't reverse into the Armco, for goodness sake, and bend it again. Point
to make here, by the way, though, after all that's taken quite some time. These guys are committed to getting the racing back up and running. People are running to their vehicles.
Oh, yeah.
These guys want to get this thing back underway as quick as possible. So a close look being taken at the repair. Eduardo will get back to the circuit vehicle. He's talking on the radio to race control, and we are, I think, about to see a difference, and he's now running mainly to avoid a truck, but to get back to the McGann. That, to me, is body language that says we're going to be going back green flag running very soon indeed. Wait for the remains of the repair crew to climb aboard their remaining vehicles.
And after the testing he did under braking, the session's going to be resumed on a short call, so we're not going to need the sweeper again, as Graham and I suggested. So that's good news too. So
the short call will be as soon as the last of these vehicles is in a place of safety. We are going to be going back and running. They take the McGann through another run through. There you go. Taking a look, and I think, well, 1, to remove a little bit more of the debris, but 2, to see what the grip levels are like. And you can be reassured, by the way, that he will be talking to the teams on the team radio to tell them what to expect, because they've not been through that incident site.
Yeah.
The course vehicle will do exactly the same.
Just working that
looking
powder,
a little
basically.
bit like a safari rally car there, isn't it?
Just needs the exhaust attached to the A-pillar and the roof, doesn't it?
A giraffe running alongside.
But yes, that the substance that's used to mop up fluid is far better when it's worked into the asphalt. So cars running over it do that a favour. 4 Ferraris of the 5 in the queue. The fifth one rather is very badly damaged. The Armco lorry has reached its way back to the pit lane and come in wrong way.
So the final vehicle on track will indeed be Eduardo Freitas in the race control Renault Megane, and as soon as he clears that blend line at the top pits, I think you will see this going back to green.
Yeah, and the EB Motors Ferrari hasn't even joined the queue because it will be released from that little area outside the garage.
I think you find that's a Porsche.
What did I say, Ferrari?
You did.
I've got walls of Ferraris on the right side.
Phone's ringing already from Stuttgart.
They are an Italian team, but have great history running Porsches. Lamborghini it was last year.
It was, yeah.
But they have run things like the Porsche Carrera Cup, I believe.
They have.
In Italy and possibly in the Super Cup. They
are extremely successful. I think is it 25th anniversary EB Motors this year? I think it might well be. And a very successful part of the Porsche family. Porsche, I know, very glad indeed to actually have them back in the fold in the European Le Mans Series at Le Mans with the fabulous 911 RSR and their now trademark kind of royal blue and gold livery. Looked great on the Lamborghini last year, looks just as good on the Porsche this year. Received their brand new 911 RSR in time for the Silverstone race last time out. Up until this point, including at Le Mans, had been working with a loaner from the Proton competition team. I mean that by way of a car on loan rather than a lonely Proton competition car. Session will be resumed at 12:28. That is in 60 seconds' time, Johnny Palmer, and we're going to get back to it.
Absolutely. So this is how we stand. It's a Kessel front row at this stage. Car 8 faster than car 50. 2:33.6 from Pianazzola in car number 8, and a 2:35.1 from Murad Sultanov. Then it's Alessandro Baccani, the 51-year-old bronze driver. It didn't have to be Baccani qualifying. It could have been Venarossi. And EB Motors may have done a bit of a switch in the Porsche, of course, because this will give opportunity for either bronze driver to do the qualifying. But the time's already been set by Baccani at 2:35.3. So that car, the Porsche, is third fastest. The 77 Kessel Racing Ferrari is fourth quickest, with Claudio Schiavoni doing the time at 2:42.660. And we haven't yet seen a time from car 51, which is second in that queue.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Green. Pit exit is green. Please advise your driver about the track limit.
And that would normally be Eduardo Freitas doing that announcement, but he's not quite back yet to race control, so it is done by his assistant. And now the cars are back into the session with a little over 7 minutes to go.
And there'll be some urgency here. They've got time for 2 flying laps if there are no further incidents here. So this establishing lap here, then 2 flying laps after that, maybe just 3, but it's going to be very tight indeed. But 2 flying laps more or less assured.
And this is the point where the cars will have to be a little bit careful heading through that quick dry that has been laid down to mop up fluid from the radiator of car 71, maybe some oil as well, and the sensible of those drivers keeping well to the right. But obviously the natural, very slippery under the Michelin tyres of the Porsche for the EB Motors car. The sensible place to be in terms of the racing line when you get to Le Mans is well over to the left, so it'll be interesting to see how everybody plays this.
Now clearly grip levels along the Camel Straight not quite what they were, at least for part of that race surface, but for the rest of the track where there was any dampness still remaining, will only have dried in the interim. So track conditions aside from the incident site and beyond along that straight should have improved in the interim period of time. So let's wait and see what that does as the cars get back up to speed.
Yes, temperatures, I mean, not up to the 20s today, but sunshine pretty solid now here at Spa, and has been for the last hour, and the message confirming that the track is very slippery at Les Combes on our timing screen, particularly on the left-hand side, very slippery just before the timing split.
Alessandro Baccani is in a hurry to get some clear air, making his way past one of the Ferraris there, just looking for a bit of, well, not racing room, but certainly a bit of room to get the very best out of this Porsche. 5.5 minutes to go. Cars coming back round to complete this lap, and then we're going to be back into fast lap conditions with almost precisely 5 minutes to go on the clock. It's going to be 2 laps, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah, for those at the front. And maybe even less than that for those that were a bit tardy to join the session. Over the line goes the number 8 car, and surprisingly that one that's bossing the championship was in the best position. So that's the dark blue with a pink detailing, pink body length stripe for car number 8, driven by Sergio Pianezzola. Just 5 cars remaining in the session as AF Corsa are working incredibly hard now on the front of the 71 to ensure it's ready for the race later. But that will start at the back of the grid, and we haven't yet seen a time for Christoph Ulrich. I tell you, it's still damp through Eau Rouge and up over Radion. So in the dip, if you like, where all the water has run to, there's not much grip there either, but it is bone dry around Les Combes. And the number 8 car then staying well over to driver's right, Sergio Pianezzola, to avoid where all the fluid was spilt, gets the car slowed sufficiently, and now heads through the right, the left and the right of Les Combes. But the car giving a little bit of a wiggle as it goes over the curb, and the curb might be retaining quite a bit of moisture as well.
But the first sector times are quicker for everybody this time around, and in particular Pianezzola puts in a purple sector in sector 1. 43.38 seconds is good enough to better anybody in the train behind him, both on the timing screens and on track. Under 4 minutes to go now. He attacks the longer sector, sector 2. Fabulous mix of technical challenge here for drivers at Spa-Francorchamps.
Through Pouhon corner on towards La Fagne, which is the right and the left. Again, it's a dip of the brakes, but try and retain mid-corner speed. The left-hander a bit tighter than the right, and you can afford to run out wide onto the curbs as you head for Campus corner with the college on the apex of that bend, then towards curve Paul Frere. And it's very important that you don't run too far wide out of here to get the best slingshot towards the fastest part of the circuit at Blanchemont. And this corner, the long, lingering left-hander, which is pretty much full throttle, is for the brave. All you see is tyre wall right in front of you. But you have to have faith that the track continues round to the left and will provide the relevant grip. Late on the brakes comes Pianezzola, then knowing that he'll get this lap and, well, possibly 2 more for Pianezzola. It's going to be a close run thing, but 2 minutes 40 on the clock. That's going to be way quicker than the 2:33 that Pianezzola had already set. A 2:30.145 then for the Swiss Kessel Racing Ferrari.
He has 5 seconds to the good now. That is reduced to 2.3 as Sultanov goes across. Baccani, though, grabs second place on the provisional grid with a 2:32.295, way back from a charging Sergio Pianezzola, but good enough to leapfrog the number 50 Kessel Racing car.
And the next Baccani lap in the Porsche, unlikely to be quicker because he overcooked it massively into La Source and went all over the curb.
This is the last chance for each of these these drivers now.
Yeah, but I think car number 8, driven by Sergio Pianezzola, will squeeze an extra lap out of it because there was still 10 seconds on the clock when it came over the line. But the others behind didn't get out of the pit lane quite quick enough for that. So Baccani charging his way down the Kemmel Straight. I'm expecting this time to be slower, though, for the Porsche, and it is. So we're not going to see any fireworks from Alessandro Baccani, and does that mean he's going to kiss goodbye to a front row start in the GT3 part of the race? 90 seconds to go. Sergio Pianezzola should have the rest of this lap and 1 more.
He's not going to need it, I don't think. He's half a second clear on the first sector time for his nearest potential contender, Sultanov, and that will be Sultanov's final flying lap. So all he has to do is to retain the kind of pace he's got here. He has, by the way, gone through the first sector in another purple sector, so Pianezzola has not lifted off yet. He's still attacking this. Is he going for a sub 2:30 here? Could well be within his grasp. Under a minute to go.
Well, this could be useful as well come the race, because obviously the car's been trimmed well and truly out now and is in its fastest mode, and it might be that the car is very pointy come the race as well. So Pianezzola using this extra track time.
It's done, because it's not only another purple sector for Pianezzola, but also Sultanov has lost the lap he's currently on. The only one he could possibly have improved on, is the clock is going to tick down before he gets to the end of this lap. And he's lost that 4 track limit, I'm afraid, on the lap he's currently going through with 13 seconds left on the clock. As he comes by, you're absolutely right. He could well have squeezed another one out if he'd wanted to. This is going to be, it's a sub 2:30, 2:29.423 is the new pole position time from Sergio Piazzolla in the number 8 Kessel Racing car as Sultanov takes the checkered flag. I think I'm right. Did the EB Motors car get through? And no, he didn't.
No. So the Porsche's over the line now, just behind that number 50 Ferrari. It gets the checkered flag as well, but lap 6 will immediately be deleted. I just wonder whether Alessandro Baccani's been pinged for going wide at La Source, which actually cost him time, but he could have been done under track limits nevertheless, because he went well over the white line and off onto the runoff, so that might have counted double against him effectively. So we've now got 4 cars that have received the checkered flag, one in the pit lane getting frantic work done to the front of the 71, and car number 8 in splendid isolation here, because this lap will still count to the session. I'm sure Kessel Racing are probably on the radio now saying, no need to burn any more fuel. You've got pole position by 2.1 seconds and might as well turn this one into an in-lap.
Well, he's done the second fastest first sector on that lap. And I think I'm right. That's just by 1,000th of a second slower than his own purple sector that time round. But I would expect he will indeed lift off. The throttle, that is.
Indeed. Well, there really is no reason for him to continue. He has managed to get pole position from what looks like the Porsche, although has lap 6 now been deleted for Baccani?
Baccani's lap 6 has been deleted, but it was lap 5 he set the quicker time.
So 2:32.2 will stand, and therefore the EB Motors car has qualified in second position ahead of new boy Murad Sultanov, the Russian driver, bronze graded and joined by Matteo Cressoni, the silver at Kessel Racing. Spirit of Race have qualified their Ferrari number 51 fourth. Christoph Ulrich doing the time at 2:33.278, and the other car, Claudia Schiavoni, the bronze graded Italian, sharing with Andrea Pacini. Both Pacini brothers are here this weekend, one in the number 8 and the other one in the 77 Kessel Racing Ferrari, and the Pacinis are both gold graded. Andrea slightly the elder, and Ferrari will complete the lap on the track, in fact, so it won't come down pit lane, although we'll have a chance obviously to dive into pit lane after the lap is completed. And now gets the checkered flag. There is no improvement.
Nope.
Visibly backing off, and the car will work its way through La Source and then it turn immediately right and into the pit lane.
That was a, very solid run indeed, wasn't it, from the number 8 car, Kessel Racing. Sergio Piazzolla secures pole position and the point.
It's a very narrow route into there. They won't be using that come the race, though, because that'll be in the Grand Prix pit lane. Here's confirmation of the times. It's the championship leader with a 3rd pole position of the year, then 2 minutes 30.146 for Sergio Piazzolla. He was 2.1 seconds quicker than the EB Motors Porsche, driven by Alessandro Baccani. So 2.1 seconds slower at the EB Motors Porsche. 3rd position for the number 50 Kessel Racing Ferrari. That car driven by Murad Sultanov, with Matteo Cressoni to drive it a little bit later on. 4th fastest was the 51 Spirit of Race Ferrari. Christoph Ulrich doing that time. 77, the Kessel Racing Ferrari was 5th fastest, ahead of a badly damaged and therefore not classified AF Corsa Ferrari. And we hope Pier Giuseppe Perezzini is okay after that incident, and we also keep our fingers crossed that both he and Marco Ciocci will get to race later on today with a 15:50 start time for the 6th race of the year in the Michelin Le Mans Cup.
Looks to me, by the way, we've had a social media update from Marco Ciocci, and it certainly tells us the most important thing is that Pier Giuseppe Perezzini is fine. He does, however, say the following: "We're sorry to go back home without a fight to get the title at home." That's a real shame. Real shame. That does sound as if they've taken a look and it's going to be beyond them in the available time. So, yeah, down to 5, I'm afraid, for the GT aspect of this grid. However, it's about to get a lot busier out there, Johnny.
It is, yes, because 19 LMP3 cars are about to head out onto this 7-kilometre circuit. Amongst them, championship leaders DKR Engineering, on for a championship double, having taken the title in 2017. And 2 of the 3 Graf cars now working their way down pit lane to join the queue, because the pit lane hasn't yet been opened, but 15 minutes are on the clock. This again declared as a wet track, so you will be able to use wet weather tyres, and I'm sure that will be the choice. With Eduardo Freitas now back in race control.
9.
And here's his countdown
7,
to a 15-minute session.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Qualifying session has started for Michelin Le Mans Cup LMP3 cars.
So all these cars powered by an identical spec Nissan engine, 5-litre V8, but they will have
Please remind drivers a slippery track between T4 and T5. Drivers left. Please remind drivers a slippery track between T4 and T5 on drivers left, especially on the approaching of T5.
2 different chassis, though, for us to be looking into. Which will be the quickest, I wonder? The Norma M30, which is the championship leading chassis, or the Ligier JSP3, which Kyrgios Nielsen have at their disposal. They are second in the championship. And remember, separating car 3 from 79, 46.5 points. There are only 52 still on the table. That's what I mean about DKR almost having it sealed. And it would take a very unusual set of results. But that won't stop the British squad, headed by Sven and Alistair McCaig and Colin Noble. A terrific drive from both of those guys. Last time we were racing in this championship in Austria, it's been a 2-month gap because these cars didn't go to Silverstone, but they've got the bit between their teeth, I'm sure, here in Belgium.
Absolutely. It's 19 cars, as Johnny quite rightly says, identical 5-litre, 420 horsepower Nissan V8 engines. So 152, is it? Nissan Nismo pistons in perfect growly harmony, doing the rounds right now. You heard Eduardo Freitas on the radio, just making sure that the teams remind their drivers with that incident site up into T5, and that there's limited grip there at the moment whilst that all dries out. One of the trio of Graf Normas, Norma having transitioned in recent months from the Ligier to the Norma chassis. So 3 of these Norma M30s now for the Graf Racing squad. The 40 car is out there with Adrian Chilla at the wheel. As it will be, by the way, in the number 2 Kyrgios Nielsen car, the number 3 DKR Engineering Jens Pettersson, a great season Jens Pettersson. And Schaumann in the Brookspeed International car, the number 4. John Ferrano, the 14 RLRM Sport car. John Molini in the DP Autosport 20. Hans Wolf in the sister car, the 21. Jim Maguire in the aero-liveried 22 United Autosports car. Richard Means in the Gulf Marine liveried car, the 23 from United. Alexander Aquani aboard 24. And on his flying lap now, the Cool Racing car. Mikey Benham in London Racing's red and white Norma, the 25 car. Anthony Pons, CD Sports number 30. As you're saying, in the United Autosports 32, and Eric Trullier, and Adrian Chilla in 39 and 40 Graf cars. Ross Warburton in the 59 RLRM Sport car. Francois Hayot in the 3rd Graf car, 65. Alistair McCaig in that Kyrgios Nielsen 79. Eric de Donker, who's his way around here in the Motorsport 98 Ligier 98. And Costa in the N-Race car 99 rounds out that field. And with all said and done, and around half the field already on their flying laps, and with John Ferrano pitting the number 14 RLRM Sport at the end of his establishing lap, it's go time for the battle for pole position, Johnny Palmer.
Yeah, interesting that John Ferrano not happy about something. He shares that car with Joop van Uitert, who is again on double duty this weekend with RLRM Sport, the 19-year-old Dutchman. Joop and John 7th in the championship, yet to be on pole, but they did get a podium at Monza earlier on in the year. Pole positions have so far gone to the number 39 Graf car. Eric and Adrian Trullier on 2 separate occasions have had pole positions. There's been a pole to Mikey Benham and Duncan Tappy in Monza, and the other car to sit on pole, CD Sport, the number 30 machine with Anthony Pont and Laurence Herr, the German.
It's going to be interesting to see just how the ebb and flow of this grid between the Norma and the Ligier's various qualities, and in particular with not absolutely ideal grip everywhere here. It has tended to go the Ligier's way when grip has been a little more at a premium. The Norma very much more effective as a straight line speed car. Pointed nose of the M30, good looking car. It's an identical mechanical package, whether or not it's a Norma or a Ligier, with that Nismo V8 and the X-Track gearbox. It's the way the bodywork is painted over it that has been the trick part of this debate. It's the current iteration of LMP3 cars. It's a bit of smoke from the rear of which of the Graf cars was that? And the first car to complete a flying lap is the number 24 car, Cool Racing. That's Alan Coigny. A 2:30.077 is going to be the time to beat.
I don't think that smoke was concerning for the Graf car. All these cars run with wooden planks underneath them, basically, so that when the car bottoms out at the very base of Eau Rouge, it's not scrubbing away anything crucial, like a sump tank or anything like that. The bit of wood is designed there to wear away if necessary, although those that followed the World Endurance Championship race at Silverstone a month ago will know that a certain thickness of plank still needs to be retained come the end of the race. I'm looking at the Toyotas from here at Spa. Anyway, big lock-up for the 79. That's the car second in the championship, and the one behind that, an even more squirrely moment. That's one of the 2 DB Autosport cars of France. And it was, I think, the 20 car that nearly didn't make La Source corner. Yes, because 21, the sister machine, is a bit further around the lap. Setting the pace initially, Alexandre Coigny for Cool Racing, and the car off track for the number 3, the championship leader. So what's happened there? Is that Le Com? No, it's towards the end of the lap, in fact. Bus stop chicane, and the car rattles over the curb, the driver's right, and is fully sideways. So that's a set of Michelins properly flat spotted, isn't it?
That must be a point that he's not going to get. Alex McCaig, by the way, did come through second quickest after that lap. I'm just trying to make sense of actually some of the sector times we're seeing here, because there's a remarkable divergence of sector times. Remarkably quick sector time going through for Lannan Racing. Mike Benham way quicker than anybody else this time around in sector 1, but 6th quickest overall after his first flyer. This is going to be one of those sessions, Johnny, where it all happens right at the flag. 7.5 minutes to go, though. We're halfway through the session, long delayed because of that incident in the earlier GT session that required barrier repairs. So itchy trigger fingers and feet will have been in abundance here. At the moment, Cool Racing, 24, from CD Sports, number 30. As Anthony Pons goes to second place, but the gap still well over a second. That 2:30.0 for the Cool Racing Ligier. It's going to take some chipping away at here. So it's Cool Racing from CD Sport, then the number 79 Akira Kost Nielsen car, then Eric de Donker in the Motorsport 98. They're the top 4, one Norma in amongst them, as Tony Wells goes to the top, and goes to the top by a distance, 2:28.433. Now the times are beginning to come. Coigny, meanwhile, the early provisional pole setter, has pitted the car. Trullier goes to the top above Wells. Coigny keeps third. Pons stays third. Mikey Benham, though, blitzes it at 2:24. A full, 6 seconds quicker than that first provisional lap time, provisional pole time from Coigny. 2:24.5, half a second up, and McCager goes through. So Lannan Racing from Courier Cost, then 2 Graf Normas, 3 Normas now in the top 4.
Before Elio, by the way, first trip into the Michelin Le Mans Cup, having been in a staple part of Ultimate in the ELMS for a couple of seasons now, joining Jean-Baptiste and Mathieu Lehay. But it's good to see Francois, bronze-graded driver in the Michelin Le Mans Cup. Here is Benham then to clear the 40 car just before Le Combe. And that car is currently fastest, the number 25 Norma M30. And that is Adrian Schiller that he was sneaking by. Adrian Schiller well placed in the championship with Marc-Antoine Danilou, their third. But the 25 car, fifth in the championship, with a bit of ground to make up on, actually, and sort of fighting Adrian Schiller in this year's series. Not obviously for the championship win, but it's one heck of a fight on for third in the standings with 2 races to go. CD Sport and Anthony Pons now to the top of the times as the track maybe gets grippier and is offering some dryness here and there.
Just 5 thousandths per second, though the
tight
advantage. 5 minutes to go. Jacques Wolf in the number 21 car loses a lap and loses plenty of places in doing so. So will be battling hard to get that back.
That was a super slow-mo of Jacques Wolf, actually, appearing onto the Kenmore Straight in his number 21 DB Autosport car.
Alan Costa goes third for N-Race.
Yeah, so 2 Normas at the head of the times. Then it is Alain Costa in the N-Race Ligier from Alistair McCaig in the Écurie Cos Ligier. And then 2 more Normas, both from Graf. 65 is 5th fastest from 39 6th.
There are purple times way further down the order, and one of them goes straight to the top as Tony Wells completes the lap. He'd put the fastest second sector in and does so in a new pole position setting time. Briefly, because that's been bettered again by Jacques Wolf. So Tony Wells, 2:22.882. That's beaten immediately by 2:21 by Jacques Wolf, and beaten as well by Mike Benham, who goes second this time with a 2:21.341. This is going to be topsy-turvy stuff.
Yeah, well, it has been for the first 11 minutes. We've still got 4 minutes of this to enjoy. And Jacques Wolf then for DB Autosport, fastest by 0.6 of a second from Michael Benham and Lannon Racing. They already have a pole position and a win to their name, winning the Saturday morning Road to Le Mans event with Duncan Tappy in the number 25. Very Toyota-looking Norma M30.
Jens Pedersen, by the way, after that lurid spin, half spin really at the bus stop, going quickly again. Not that rapid in Sector 1 on this lap, but very rapid indeed in the longer Sector 2. And that's going to put that car back up into contention. Certainly not going to be that far down the order when this one is done. He goes second. So Jens Pedersen onto the front row of the grid, 2/10 off. And what else has he got to offer in this session? So Jacques Wolf from Jens Pedersen, Mike Benham, Tony Pons, Tony Wells, Trollier, Alan Costa. That is the top 7. And Nash Hussain in 8th, Eric de Donker and Alistair McCaig completing the top 10. Norma now. The first of the Ligiers is Tony Wells in 5th position.
Here's the 59 car, which is the entry from RLR M Sport. Very similar paint scheme to the other RLR team car, just with the more red body length stripe. And here is Jens Pedersen pursuing into Le Combe corner, the number 23 of United Autosports, which is the Richard Mines and Christian England car. Mines doing the qualifying. Meanwhile, what has Tony Wells got up his sleeve? He's been in provisional pole on 2 separate occasions, about to head over the line then, and Tony Wells could be set to improve. He goes to the top again, a 2:19.8 this time. That's nearly 2 seconds faster than anybody else, Graham.
An astonishing lap, and there does seem to be conditions here that are giving these guys the opportunity to carve great chunks out of the field at various parts of the circuit. Mike Benham responds. He puts a further 0.8 of a second. That first part of the lap is drying out rapidly. That's what's going on here. So Mike Benham on 2:19.067 with 2 minutes to go inherits grabs the pole position, provisional pole position. Benham from Wells, Wolf, McCaig, Trullier, because Alistair McCaig is another man who's put in a mighty effort to improve there. Both the Écurie Cos Nielsen cars in the top 4. And all of these men will have another opportunity to improve. Tony Wells certainly is looking to do that. He put in the fastest first sector. That was better by Trullier almost immediately. The 39 car is on a flyer, but much, much quicker than any of them in Sector 1 now. And the first man into the 39s, let alone the 40s, is Mike Benham.
We're still about 3.5 seconds off last year's pole, which was set in the dry. Jean Gloria doing the time of 2:15.5. We're at 2:19 at the moment as the CD Sport machine comes into the bus stop chicane. CD Sport's car being driven by Anthony Pont, the Frenchman, and that car will cross the line. Pont is up again through the various sectors. Not sure he's got enough in hand to go pole. No, he goes fourth fastest, behind Jacques Wolf, behind Tony Wells, but behind Michael Benham. And there's another spin at the first corner.
That was an orange Norma, I think, CD Sport car. Unless it...
No, the CD Sport car we were concentrated on. I thought it
was DKR, was it?
I think it was. The DKR car being shown as leaving that scene now on our little track map, but the track map I think is based on predicted times rather than GPS. So that car coming to a halt at Le Source corner. My guess would be Jens Pettersson again. 15 seconds to go. The 6th lap, though, under investigation now for Michael Benham, and that is the current lap, so not the provisional pole lap for Benham.
But he's going to be under pressure here from Tony Wells, amongst others. Norma seems to have it in the first sector. The Ligier's definitely got it in second. This will be Tony Wells' last opportunity to improve. He does. He goes to the top. So Tony Wells with a 2:17.7 now. Trullier cannot better that. He comes through second with a 2:18.6. Mikey Benham, though, on a lap that is under investigation, goes back to the top with a 2:17.2. Half a second up. Big gaps there emerging as a track ride.
Absolutely, and there's going to be a little bit of doubt surrounding that lap then, because as we know, under investigation was the message from the officials. But as the session settles down now and the checkered flag is waved, Lannon, their session comes to a close and down into the endurance pit lane they go. At the moment, provisional pole sitters, and that will be a second pole of the year with a race win during Le Mans week as well, remember, for Tappy and for Benham at Lannon Racing. A front row start for Tony Wells and James Littlejohn. That elusive pole then still evades them here at Spa. A third and a second place to their name already this season in the races. Third position going the way of one of the 3 Graf cars, number 39, Eric Trullier, coming really close to a third pole of the year. We've still got cars full speed here, piling their way towards Le Fagnes corners, with the N-Race machine pursuing the RLR M Sport Ligier. So 99 being driven by Alain Costa. That's the red, white and black car with N-Race on the dorsal fin. And the rain lights flashing for car number 14, John Ferrano, who had a niggle at the start of the session.
That's not going to help Alain Costa. He was on a bit of a flyer there. Unfortunately, that's not helped his efforts. Just looking for anything that might emerge here that's going to be extraordinary, because this track is drying out quickly, but I don't think we're going to see that. We do have Mike Benham, the lead of this session, and whilst under investigation, at the moment sits there at the top. Benham from Wells, Trullier, McCaig, Wolf, Pons, Chiller. Ferrano improves. Jens Pettersson is 9th, but actually just leapfrogs through to 8th with that improvement.
And the one man still to cross the line is John Schaumann, and he does that now by improving, actually. A 2:27.101 gains him a place on the grid from 18th up to 17th, but it's quite a mixed up grid when you take a look at the championship standings and then the order that the cars will start later on.
And the measure of how that improved as things actually dried out is 18th of the 19th cars is Alexandre Acquagny, the Cool Racing car that ducked out of that session early. I suspect was on the wrong tyres for that session, and he ended up 18th after having led the session from the first flying laps.
Times confirmed then. Lannon Racing with a second pole of the year, a 2:17.217, and that's half a second as a cushion back to Ecurie Cos Nielsen, the Tony Wells car. They are 5th and 4th in the championships, with a dice from the front row promised. Third fastest was the number 39 Graf car, Eric Trullier, sharing with son Adrian this weekend again, and Alistair McCaig posts a 4th fastest time. But second in the championship, Ecurie Cos only 5th. The leaders qualify 8th. And the third place championship car 7th So it promises to be a very interesting race as far as the championship battle is concerned. Be sure to join us later on. The race is due to start then at 3:50 through till just before 6 o'clock. Our 6th race of the year for the 2018 Michelin Le Mans Cup. My thanks to Graham Goodwin. From Graham Goodwin and Johnny Palmer, it's goodbye for now.